We'll move on to transfers then. According to Team Talk, this is Liverpool hope to have the upper hand over Arsenal when they make their play to sign Fulham midfielder Joao Palhinha in January. Now, a lot has been said about Joao Palhinha. Obviously, the report goes on to say Liverpool have already held talks with the representatives of the Fulham defensive midfielder. The Portuguese, I guess I meant to say international, but it doesn't, would prefer him to stay in. I don't like just the Portuguese.
The whole
terrible.
of Portugal,
I know, that's awful.
the
isn't it? And that is literally copied and pasted from the report. That's on me. We'll prefer him to stay in the Premier League rather than move abroad. His club want around 60 million. So he very nearly went to Bayern Munich, as we saw. We all seen him dejected leaving Bayern Airport, or Munich Airport rather. 60 million, even in and around that to me, Neil. He's 28 now. He'll be 29 by the time next summer comes around. I don't know about this.
No, I don't think they'll sign him. I mean, listen, they would have tried to sign him in January, in the summer, if they wanted to. He was available, clearly. 28, they signed a 30-year-old. They're not going to sign a 28-year-old for 3 times that figure at this stage. Look, he's an excellent player. He's an excellent defensive midfielder as well. He's very much that guy that, if you want a destroyer, you want someone to win tackles and be strong and break up play. There aren't many better than him around in the Premier League at this moment in time. No, I don't think Liverpool will be signing him. I think Bayern Munich, very much missed out on not just him but a few others in the summer. I expect them to be the front of that queue. I wouldn't expect Liverpool or Arsenal, actually. I know there was a link with them as well. I wouldn't expect either of those two to be going and splashing out.
No, I tend to agree.
50 plus million for a player like him.
No, I tend to agree. It's more down to the age profile. I think if he was 21, 22, we might have a different conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously he joined Fulham last summer for 20 million, I think. And there was some links with Liverpool. It might have made more sense then. Yeah. Get him direct from sport, and he's gone on there. He's done nothing but further his reputation in the Premier League, and it's not a case of he's not good enough to make a difference to the Liverpool squad. But haven't gone and spent the money on Endo, and we saw Klopp talking about Endo and why Liverpool chose to sign him, and how they came to land upon him. I'm pretty sure in amongst that process they would have landed somewhere along the possibility of Palhinha, and they've turned it down in the summer, so I don't expect them to change that in January.
No, I quite agree. Maximilian Beier, or Beier, I apologise either way. Heavily linked actually Liverpool in recent weeks. I've seen a lot of this going around. It's the first time I've really addressed it, to be honest, because it felt initially like one of them that might sort of come and go, but as I say, it has hung around. Florian Plettenberg is the latest to touch on it earlier on this week. Mentions Liverpool's interest, mentions a release clause of €30 million. This is for the summer as opposed to January. Many top clubs interested, and as I say, his name has been doing around quite a lot. He's 21, and he also goes on to say he will definitely leave Hoffenheim next summer. So, interesting one in terms of his profile. Very much centre forward, played a little bit on the left wing, but we are talking a very little bit. 6 goals and 4 assists in the Bundesliga. Liverpool have a decent track record of signing lads from Hoffenheim.
Centre forwards as well.
Yeah. What are we saying about this one?
Yeah, listen, look, one to keep an eye on. I think I can't profess to know anything about him as a player. He hasn't been one I've seen play. But if you're 21, you're scoring goals in the Bundesliga and decent level. I know it's not 6 goals and 4 assists, but you're doing okay in double figures in goal contributions in the Bundesliga in a side that isn't one of the powerhouses. Then I would be amazed if many top clubs aren't sort of keeping an eye on his progress. I mean, the interesting one is that he's a centre forward. Obviously Liverpool have committed very much to Darwin Núñez. They've obviously got Cody Gakpo pushing to start games and actually pushing pretty hard at the moment. I think in the way he's been playing. You've still got Diogo Jota, of course, there, but it is one, isn't it, that your five forwards. I think adding a young one in there wouldn't be the craziest decision. You're seeing as soon as Jota gets injured, all of a sudden it does feel a little bit more tight around those forward areas. So maybe if you could add a young one. I know Ben Doak's emerging as a wide player, but if you're talking about a forward, a centre forward to come on, it might be one that does it, especially if you've got a release clause that makes it easier to do. But I think Liverpool won't be won't be the only club who are noticing a young player scoring goals in one of the top European leagues.
No, absolutely, yeah, but I think you're right. I think it's one of them. With that release clause of €30 million, Liverpool and indeed other clubs will be looking at that going, he's a brilliant prospect and he might only cost us, what's that, 25 million quid, give or take. So yeah, it's a bit of a no-brainer if he is indeed as talented.
Listen, it's still a lot of money, isn't it? For a 21-year-old, it's certainly an unproven player, but I think it's one of them that I watch him brief and just see how he's developing, and if he's got the skill set, I think to play for Liverpool you'd need to have certain characteristics. I think probably being a bit versatile might be ideal actually, but if you score goals, if you've got a bit of physicality, if you can press, if you can link the play, you'll be in Liverpool's hitting zone, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. I want to touch on one more, and it's not really a transfer, but it isn't in essence. Joel Matip's injury has brought about more questions regarding defensive reinforcements, essentially. But before we go into that, there's obviously a lot of talk about his future, out of contract at the end of this season. As we know, Jurgen Klopp addressed it briefly in his press conference, basically putting it on the owner's toes and saying, give him a new deal or else. What did you make of all that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that he put it on the owner's toes a little bit. It would be sad because he's going to be out until after his contract expires. Probably September. You're looking at earliest, really, aren't you? 8-9 month recovery period for an ACL, and then obviously it's probably you're looking maybe a month or two after that, even before you're ready to play or certainly to start games. So it would be sad and disappointing from the whole perspective, really, both from the players' perspective, but also from the Liverpool fans, that Joel Matip's sort of last moment was limping off or being helped off at Anfield in a game in December. The suggestion would be, I suppose, a year's extension, wouldn't it, and let him complete his rehab and hopefully get back to playing in that period. Obviously, I'm guessing the terms would reflect the fact that he's not a starting player, or he's not available to start at the beginning of that contract. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if it was to happen. I think Klopp said to me, so we do the decent thing or the right thing.
The right thing, yeah.
The right thing. Yeah. If they don't, then they haven't. They've done the wrong thing, haven't they? So. Yeah. I think the manager would, if he had his way, I think Joel would get a new contract for the year at least. Yeah,
I think there's a lot of heart in that. But there's a more ruthless side to all this, isn't it? Because, 32 now, 33
yeah, 33 by the time he's back. Yeah,
so
August next year, yeah.
Business-wise?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, take the injury out of the equation, I wouldn't give him a new contract if he was fit now. I would say Liverpool, no, that's your sort of, that's your ceiling of him. you're sending a player out there that's got, you're talking maybe 6 months without the club. You're condemning him to. He's got injured on obviously representing your club. So I think maybe the heart element to it might override the logical sort of business sense, but I don't think it'll be it's not going to be a 4-year contract on 150 grand a week. It's going to be more of a let's say it's an appearance based one, or an incremental one that, look, if you get back and you hit these targets, then we'll give you the reward accordingly. But I think maybe it's just a little bit of a security one for Matip, that you're not going to be on the scrap heap at 32, looking around after coming back from an ACL thinking, right, where's my next club? But it's just, it's terrible for him more so because he was playing well. Obviously, he was one of the sort of surprise packages of the season, wasn't he? I think a lot of people, myself included, felt he'd reached the end of his shelf life, and he hadn't. And then just when he's sort of back established as first choice centre back, he gets that in a nothing challenge as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was his shirt for the most part recently. He's been absolutely outstanding. And again, I didn't see it coming. I felt like we might have seen the best of Joel Matip, but he continues to defy logic, essentially. Certainly when he comes back from injuries, he's outstanding. But yeah, I think you're right. I was being a bit tongue-in-cheek. I think he does deserve that new contract. The club should do right by him, absolutely, and at least allow him to sort of get back to fitness, get up and running again. What it does also lead to is the question about January, of course, because I think I wasn't expecting him to get a new deal either, regardless of his form, potentially. I always expected him to sort of be allowed to leave. I think the injury does change that slightly. But there was always a question about, do we then go and replace him? That would have been in the summer. now the talk is January. There's a couple of interesting elements to this. Of course, you can enter the market, and there's also a conversation around Rhys Williams, who is yet to play for Aberdeen up north of the border, and Nat Phillips, who has just started playing recently, but he's not in the best of times.
No, he had a disappointing one at the weekend, didn't he, with the own goal. Yeah, I think Jürgen's quotes were sort of instructive, really, on Friday, wasn't it, before the Palace game? He said, yeah, you know, in the ideal world, you just go and buy a top-class centre-back, but who's going to sell us one in the middle of the season? It has to be the right player, blah, blah, blah. That's what we've been saying, really, on shows. You know, if you can bring forward one that you were going to buy in the summer and he's suddenly available, and there is a chance that they will. You know, we always say it going into January, it's a tough market and it's blah blah blah, but you can find them. You know, Liverpool have done it many times in the past where they found a player in a tough market. You know, Van Dijk, Coutinho, Luis Diaz, Cody Gakpo, Daniel Sturridge. They've done it many times. So that's the challenge this time. I think is there a player that you want for the long term that's available in January? I would, unless more players go down injured and you get to the stage where you've only got one or two fit centre halves for months, I don't see them making a sort of a stopgap signing where they go, oh, let's go and get Ozenka back. The Williams and Phillips ones, look, they've done it before, obviously, without being cruel. If you're not getting an Aberdeen's team at this moment in time, and Aberdeen are not having the best of times themselves, what help are you going to give to Liverpool at that stage? You know, it'd be a massive ask for Rhys Williams to spend 6 months or 5 months on the sidelines up in Scotland and then come in and be ready to play Premier League, Europa League, latter stages games. I think Nat's only till January, isn't it? His thing. So Nat's probably more likely to be able to do that. And the way his career's panned out, you wouldn't bank on him. You know, you wouldn't bet against him coming back and being man of the match in the Europa League final or something like that. You know, he just seems to have those kind of weird turnarounds. I'd be looking at Williams coming back and then going back somewhere else on loan, as opposed to going into the first team. Phillips, if he was coming into the first team, I think it would just have to be very much emergency cover because he was there at the start of the season and Liverpool let him go out on loan. He hasn't played too much since. He's obviously not long-term Liverpool's plans, but at least he's got the game, I think, to just do a job for Liverpool. I think Williams clearly, you know, needed the loan to go well, and he's had, unfortunately for him, his last three have gone pretty poorly. You know, he's had Swansea, he's had Blackpool, he's had Aberdeen. He's not really had much luck with any of them. So I think he needs to go and play somewhere else at this moment in time. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, and just finally on this, if it was on you, what would you be doing in January?
I'd buy one. I'd buy a new centre back. Listen, I'm sure Liverpool will be across a lot of situations who might be available. I'm sure they'll have a list of centre backs that they feel are good enough. I'd be working through that list and trying to find one that's available in January. Most definitely. I think they're short. I think they were short. You know, Kwanzaa has helped in the start of the season massively because he's emerged, and I think you've got to give him the credence that he's potentially a first team player. But you look at the options they've got. Jürgen can say they've got 4 centre backs, but one of them's playing right back. One of them has played 2 Premier League games, and obviously Kanate is a player that's a huge upside, but also a downside that he doesn't often play a long run of games. You know, I think he's only met twice reached 6 for Liverpool in a row, 6 starts. He's had problems this season where he's had to be withdrawn from France squad. He's been pulled up in a warm up over in Toulouse. You know, he hasn't started games. I mean, he didn't start at the weekend, for example. I think the 4 that you've got can quickly become 2 or less. So I would buy one personally, and I think it would make a big difference to Liverpool. And also, the other thing is, Matip frees up a space in the squad as well. You can take him out of the Europa League squad and the Premier League squad now without it being, you know, an absolute affront to him. You know, he's not going to be available for the rest of the season, so you've got the space there to do it if you have the opportunity. And I think I would be doing everything I could. But I say that every January, and
no,
I'm just me.
No, I agree with you for what it's worth. Yeah, I'm in the same boat, to be honest. And the Canate stuff especially sort of raises that for my liking, because it looks like Liverpool are managing his minutes now more than ever, to be honest, like we had to do with Matip previously. Hello, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed that brief section of my conversation with the amazing Neil Jones on transfers. Some very interesting stuff in there. I'm sure you'll agree. And as you can probably tell, I tend to agree with him on the centre-back front. If you'd like to watch or listen to the rest of that show, head to redmenplus.com, sign up as a captain or a legend, and you'll get all the injury talk, all the fixtures talk, and a little bit more transfer stuff included as well. And you'll find out what Neil likes most about Christmas dinner. What's not to love there? Take it easy. I'll see you again soon.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out the content today. If you want to get your name in and amongst these wonderful people, then head to redmenplus.com. Join as a legend tier subscriber. You're going to get free merchandise codes. You're going to get in our Discord, and you're going to get your name at the end of YouTube videos. Yes, redmenplus.com, legend tier status.